Hello everybody, how's it going? It's Jack here, back on Pokemon for a change, but with a bit of a twist. So, for those of you that don't know, I recently joined a league called the NPA, the National Pokemon Association, and it's a bracket-style league, and every single week there is a new battle. You make a team, and you get your Pokemon through drafts, and this can make things either very difficult or very fun. It's definitely very interesting. So, I'm still catching up on my battles. I'm still trying to get all the rules underway. I did my first battle. For those of you that don't know, I was taking over the team. It's called the Miami Mews from a guy named Nick. Unfortunately, he had to quit the league because his 3DS broke. So I'm taking his spot and I'm trying to catch up. My first battle went fantastically, and you guys will probably see that later in the week. But this battle was mandatory to get up today. I just did it right now. And let me tell you, this guy is amazing. His name is Cybernightmare, and he is an amazing battler. He called all of my bluffs, and his team was especially frightening. So I'm going to get straight into it. It was an amazing battle, so let's go. Alright, so I had 12 different Pokemon to choose from, and I ran this team pretty much the exact same as I did in my first battle. So I start off with Theraphorn just to get some sort of hazard on. He goes for Electros, and Electros is very confusing. It can be a very mixed Pokemon. So he goes for Knockoff, and it pisses me off because I lost my Rock Helmet already. Luckily, I did do some sort of damage, and these Pokemon usually don't carry any recover move. So I get my Stealth Rocks off, so I think, okay, well at least I can get some sort of damage off on this Pokemon. And he ends up going for Flamethrower. That's actually very surprising to be on Electros. But then again, I've never actually gone against an Electros except against maybe one time, so I really didn't know what I was getting myself into. So he calls my bluff at this point. I send up my Roserade in hopes that I can get a Flash Fire boost on my Chandelure, but it seemed a little too obvious, and that was a big mistake on my part, because he ends up destroying my Chandelure. So my Air Balloon is popped. He goes for a knockoff, and that does a ton of damage against Chandelure. I lose my Air Balloon, and I end up going for a Flamethrower just to get some sort of damage off on this thing. It does a decent amount of damage, but he ends up going for a Thunderbolt and just destroys my Chandelure, so I'm already down one Powerhouse Pokemon. And that's very concerning, because I don't have a whole lot to choose from. So now I have a mandatory Mega Absol out, and things get very interesting at this point. For the first half of this battle, it was incredibly scary. I actually thought I was going to lose all the way up until the end. So, I end up going for a Sucker Punch. I called his bluff on the Flamethrower or Knockoff or whatever, and I thankfully do get rid of that Electros, because that can be a very scary Pokemon. I've used that in competitive myself. And now he sends out something that's going to scare my Absol. He goes for, this is a mandatory Mega Pinsir, and this thing can be very scary if it goes for a Bulk Up X-Scissor. So I switch out, and I really didn't know what I was going to send out at this point. I thought maybe if I do a Dragon Tail on my Dragalge, I might be able to get rid of it, and might be able to do stone damage to different Pokemon, but I really was unsure. I really made a mistake at this part. So he goes for the Mega, he goes for Bulk Up, and I really should have played a little differently, try to get some sort of damage off on him with Absol. So he ends up going for Earthquake, and I thought Dragalge was going to survive at this point, but he gets absolutely wrecked. So things are not looking good in my direction right now. I just am focusing on getting rid of this Pinsir because it was one of his powerhouse Pokemon. So I have Cresselia, and I really didn't know what to go for. I thought maybe if I can survive this move, I can go for some sort of Ice Beam and freeze it or something. So I do go for Ice Beam, and thankfully it is going to be just enough to take out that Pinsir. But now Cresselia is completely useless to me. It's locked into Specs, and any move will destroy it. So he ends up sending out his Stall. He has this Mew, and it pisses me off so much. He goes for Defog, so Ferrothorn is now completely useless. Cresselia's evasiveness is gone, and the stones are gone. So I just go for an Ice Beam in an attempt to do some sort of damage. I really did not expect this Mew to run any recovery moves, though. I thought, okay, it'll run the 2 walls, and maybe Psychic, and maybe something else. But it ends up having Roost on it, and this just pisses me off the entire battle. So, thankfully, it can't do a whole lot of damage to me, but it can set up walls, which destroys a lot of my team, considering that they have a lot of physical moves. Especially on Absol, which was my go-to Pokemon. So he goes for Knockoff. I really didn't care at this point, because Cresselia was pretty much useless to me. So, that's it for Cresselia. You know, she didn't really get to do as much as she wanted. So he's going to go for the lefties on his Mew, and this thing was just so annoying this entire battle. So I send out Absol, and I'm hoping that I can kind of chance it and maybe do some sort of damage. I go for the Swords Dance because I'm pretty sure it's going to go for Reflect at this point, you know, just to set up some sort of wall. And I did call it, he did go for Reflect, unfortunately, but I'm figuring if I can at least get like +1 attack over this Reflect, I might be able to do some sort of damage to his team in the next 5 moves. So he's going to withdraw his Mew at this point, and I figured, okay, whatever. So he's going to send out his Drillbee, and I figured, alright, well, you know, screw it, let me go for Superpower and just try to get rid of it. I did go for Play Rough first, though, because I didn't really know what he was going to switch into. Didn't do any damage at all, but then I ended up going for the Priority Superpower just to get rid of this Drillbee, because this was a very scary Pokemon, especially if it can get like a +1 Earthquake off on you. Unfortunately, at this point, Absol is pretty much useless because his attack and defense are lowered, and he sends out his biggest threat, which is Blissey. Especially because a lot of my Pokemon are weak to fighting, especially the Absol. I can't let him die. So I send out Roserade to be some cannon fodder. It goes for a Seismic Toss, and it's gonna go do a pretty decent amount of damage to Roserade, but he still survives, surprisingly. I go for the Sleep Powder at this point in hopes that maybe I can chip away enough of its health in the next, like, 2 to 3 turns. I was really hoping, I was chancing that it can stay asleep for, like, 3 turns instead of 2, but unfortunately that is not gonna work off well. Reflect is gone, thankfully, and I end up just going for Sludge Bombs and then trying to go for a Leaf Storm in hopes that I can get rid of this Chansey, but it's really not going to work out too much in my favor. So, Blissey also has leftovers, which is really annoying. I just go for another Sludge Bomb at this point, just trying to get some sort of crit or something off on here, and Roserade's not looking too good. So Blissey ends up waking up, unfortunately. I was really hoping he was going to stay asleep one more turn. It goes for a Seismic Toss, and shockingly, I actually survive, and I get the poison point off, so at least I know it has poison on there, so I will chip away some sort of damage at this point, which is a huge saver on my part. So I end up going for Leaf Storm as a last hurrah, and it does a decent amount of damage, but unfortunately, Roserade is going to get killed by the Life Orb, and Blissey, of course, is going to have Soft Boiled, so all of Roserade's effort was for nothing except for the poison status, which is very unfortunate because I really am scared to go against this Pokemon, especially if Absol. Because if Absol does die during this battle, I'm completely screwed because none of my other Pokemon are powerhouses enough to actually beat any of these Pokemon. But I am forced to send out Absol in some sort of effort to just outspeed it and do enough damage. I go for the Superpower. Thankfully, I do outspeed, and it is going to take care of Blissey. So all of his threats are pretty much down except for his Stalls and his Speed Priority Pokemon. And at this point, things are looking a little more up in my direction. He sends out his Stall once again, and I figure, alright, screw it. I'm just going to set up here. I know he's going to go for Reflect once more, and he's probably going to switch out to one of his other Pokemon. And that's exactly what happens. He ends up going for Reflect, goes for the lefty, so he has max health now. And I just said, alright, whatever. I'm just going to try to get some sort of damage off and set up at this point. I go for Play Rough. It really doesn't do anything because I really couldn't do much at this point. I just did not want him going for Knockoff. I wanted to see what he was going to go for. So he goes for Roost. He has maxed out health once again. And he switches out into his Lucario. And I'm like, yes, this is perfect because he can't, no matter what he does, he can't beat me. So I go for a Sword Stance, so now I'm on a +2 Sword Stance. I'm +1 above that Reflect, and I'm just going to go straight for a Superpower at this point because I'm just sick and tired of Lucario and any battle, and I just wanted to get rid of it. So now I really don't have to worry too much about any of his threats, but Absol is my last Pokemon at this point, so things do get very hairy. So he's going to send out his Stall, and it's pretty much down to the wire at this point. I'm setting up, but at the same time, he can set up walls, he can go for Knockout, and he can go for Roost. And it's very scary because these are the last 2 Pokemon, and I actually thought I was going to lose this battle for the longest time. My heart was just pounding at this point. I forgot about the defense drop on Superpower, which was not good in my position, and I also forgot about the 1/2 damage on Mew with Superpower, but it did do a decent enough damage. Unfortunately, of course, it does have Roost, but I was really just trying to find the perfect moment for me to go for Sucker Punch in this thing. I just chip away at it with Play Rough. It goes for Roost once more, so I said, alright, whatever, I'm just going to try to chip away at as much as I can. But then I realized that if he is roosting, he has to go for some sort of move because he already has Reflect up. So I'm like, alright, this is the perfect opportunity to go for Sucker Punch. I actually call his bluff, I go for a Sucker Punch, and it does a massive amount of damage. And he goes for a knockoff. It gets very scary because if he gets one more knockoff on me and I miss a move, I lose this battle. So I was really expecting him to go for a Roost, but I have priority, so it doesn't matter. I just go straight for a Play Rough just to get some sort of damage off, and I end up winning the battle with that crit. Crit mattered at this point. So an incredibly close battle. This is probably the closest battle I've had in a long time, and I was just pounding. My heart was just pounding during this battle, and I really want to go against him again in the future. Hopefully we do later in the bracket, because this was definitely one of my toughest battles. I didn't get to choose my Pokemon, neither did he, and he called all of my bluffs. So good on you, Cyber. I really hope to see what you do in the future, and I really hope I can go against you once more. And great battle. So I'm going to link his YouTube channel in the description below, and I will see you guys in the next bracket battle. Peace.